Good morning. Welcome back to the Red Mic. Happy Monday. Hope you had a good weekend. Today's Red Mic message. I had a plan. There's an old saying that if you want to make God laugh, you should tell him your plans. Well, if that's true, I've probably kept him pretty well entertained because I've always been a planner. I like knowing where I'm going. I like knowing what comes next. I like having a goal and figuring out the steps to get there. And I've had some pretty good plans over the years. They just apparently haven't been God's plans. When I was younger, senior year of college, I planned on joining the Navy. I wanted to serve my country, and I figured I could use the GI Bill to pay for grad school afterward. It made sense. Serve my country, get some experience, get some help with grad school, then figure out what came next. There was just one problem. Actually, there were a couple of them. An old knee problem and neck issues from hyperextensions from playing center in the single wing offense in high school. Well, that derailed the whole thing. The Navy was not going to happen. I mean, I was literally, he was about to send me to go get my physicals and stuff. And he said, I've just got some boilerplate questions. And he starts going through them and says, have you ever had a knee injury? He said, yeah, minor. I tweaked it once. And he said, how? And I told him high school football. And then he said, have you ever had a neck injury? And I said, yeah, a couple of hyperextensions, a case of whiplash. And he was like, my God, how? And I was like, well, I played center in the single wing offense and my head was always between my legs and nose guards hit you back of the head and, stuff happens. And he said, you're not going to pass the physical. He said, I'd love for you to go but it's going to waste your time. So at the time I thought, well, I've lost that plan. But, looking back, maybe I was paying too much attention to the plan and not enough attention to what was underneath it, because part of what attracted me to the Navy was service. Had a cousin who was in the Navy, retired from the Navy. I always looked up to him. I wanted to do something that mattered. Both grandfathers were in the Army Air Corps. My dad was in the Air Force. Again, I wanted to be part of something that was important. The uniform was one way I imagined doing that. Wasn't going to be my way, though. Several years later, 2001, I was working for my state senator in my hometown of Wichita Falls, and this time somebody else had a plan for me. My senator thought I should run for county commissioner. He was going to support me. He was going to give me his blessing and political backing. We started talking about a future that looked pretty possible. Stay home in Wichita Falls, run for office, serve the community where I grew up. And again, it made sense. But again, there was that same word underneath the plan, service. I could see myself doing it. I could see the campaign. I saw all of it. I could see the job. I could see a future in Wichita Falls, but then the senator died and the guy who was helping me imagine that future was gone. I needed a job, and the job I found was in Austin, 5 hours away from home. No way to run a campaign there. So instead of launching a campaign for county commissioner, I packed up and headed south. That wasn't my plan, not even close. But here's what I've come to understand about plans. Sometimes we're wrong about the plan without being wrong about the purpose. No, I never served in the Navy. I never became county commissioner, but I have spent most of my career in public service. I just found other ways to serve. Different agencies, different responsibilities, different opportunities, eventually different roles in and around the state legislature. None of it followed the route I would have drawn when I was younger, but the thread running through it was remarkably familiar. Service. That's something I wish I'd understood earlier. We tend to confuse what we want to accomplish with how we expect to accomplish it. Those aren't the same thing. Maybe you want to lead, so you decide you need a particular title. You want to help people, so you decide you need a particular career. Maybe you want to make a difference, so you become convinced there's one particular job, one particular organization, one particular opportunity that's going to allow you to do that. And when that door closes, it can feel like the purpose disappeared with it. It didn't. The plan did, but there's a difference. And I've spent enough time around good leaders to know that the ones who understand that difference are usually the ones who last. They know where they're trying to go, but they aren't so committed to the route that they can't turn when the road changes. They don't abandon the mission just because the strategy has to change. And maybe life isn't that different. You should make plans. Absolutely. Set goals, prepare, work hard, put yourself in position for the opportunities you want. And I still believe in all of that. But I've learned to hold the plan a little more loosely than I used to because a plan is just a tool. It's not the purpose. The Navy was a plan. County commissioner was a plan. Neither happened. But service, that part somehow survived both of those going away. And maybe that's the question worth asking when one of your own plans falls apart. Not just what am I going to do now, but why did I want to do it in the first place? Because if you can answer that question, you may discover that the thing you were really called to do is still available to you. It just may look different than you expected. So make the plan, work the plan, give it everything you've got. But when life changes it, and sooner or later it probably will, don't automatically assume you've lost your way. Maybe you were wrong about the plan. You weren't necessarily wrong about the purpose. So hold tightly to your purpose, hold loosely to your plan, because the route can change without changing the reason you're traveling. And that's today's Red Mike message. I hope you found it interesting and helpful. I hope you're able to put these things in place in your own life. Again, hope you had a good weekend. It's Monday. Go out there, knock the cover off the ball, do it all week long, and then it'll be a weekend again before you know it. I'll see you again tomorrow. Thanks for being here. And until next time, don't forget, as always, life is short. Drink the bourbon.